There's a room inside you that you have kept locked for a very long time. You walk past it every single day. You have learned the exact path that avoids it, the busyness, the noise, the scrolling, the staying strong. And most days, it works. Most days you forget the room is even there. But late at night, when everything finally goes quiet, you can feel it. A faint pressure behind the door. Something inside it, waiting. Something you put there years ago because back then you were not ready to feel it. And here's the strange part. You don't even remember what's inside anymore. You just know that you spend an enormous amount of energy making sure that door never opens. Tonight, it's going to open. Not violently, not all at once. Just enough to see what has been living in there, the emotion you buried so deep that you convince yourself it was gone. In front of you are 6 symbols. A storm, a tree, a wave, a rose, a rock, a moon. 6 images that mean nothing on their own until one of them quietly reaches out and grabs you. And it will. One of them is already pulling at you, even now, before I've explained anything. That pull is not random. That pull is the thing behind the door, finally finding a way to speak. So don't think. Don't choose the one that looks nicest. Look at all 6, and notice which one refuses to let your eyes leave it. Whatever that number is, that is the key to the room. Hold it, because in the next few minutes, I'm going to tell you exactly what you locked away in there, and why your mind works so hard to make you forget it. And I'll warn you now, for most of you, this is going to feel uncomfortably accurate. So before we open the door, type your number in the comments, 1 through 6, before you hear what it means. Because once you hear it, you can't know it. And the most honest answer is always the one you give before you understand it. Carl Jung spent his entire life studying exactly this. The emotions we push into the shadow, the feelings we decide are too dangerous, too heavy, or too shameful to carry in the light. He believed that the things we refuse to face do not leave us. They wait. They live in the dark and quietly shape everything. Our moods we cannot explain, our reactions that seem too big for the moment, the walls we build around ourselves that we cannot even see anymore. He called it the shadow, and he believed that the only way to stop being controlled by what is hidden is to turn and finally look at it. That is what this test is. Not a game, not entertainment. A mirror, the kind that shows you the room you have been avoiding. Take a slow breath. Look at your symbol one more time. Hold a number in your mind. There is nothing to fear in what comes next, only something to finally, honestly understand. Let's open the room. If your eyes found the first symbol, the storm, the dark swollen clouds, and the single bolt of lightning cutting through, then the emotion locked in your room is anger, not the explosive, obvious kind that makes noise. The quiet kind, the kind that was never allowed to make noise. You may be someone who learned very early that your anger was a problem. When you were upset as a child, or even as an adult, it either made things worse, frightened someone, or simply disappeared into silence, unheard. And so you became the calm one, the one who doesn't react, the one who keeps the peace. You trained yourself so completely that you can now sit in situations that hurt you, that cross your lines, that treat you as less than you are, and feel almost nothing in the moment. You smile. You stay reasonable. You say you're fine. But your body remembers what your mind has learned to ignore. It keeps a score. It lives in the tension in your jaw, the tightness across your shoulders, the exhaustion that never fully lifts no matter how much you sleep. That is the lightning with nowhere to go. The anger that was never allowed to speak has been speaking in the only language left to it. Your body, your silence, the walls you quietly build around yourself without deciding to. And notice how it shows up in your relationships. You may have a pattern of withdrawing instead of confronting, of going cold instead of saying what actually hurt you. The people who love you sometimes feel a wall they cannot explain, a distance that appears without warning, and they don't know what they did because you never told them. Not because you are dishonest, but because you genuinely learned that expressing anger was more dangerous than swallowing it. But here's the truth your symbol came to tell you. Your anger was never the villain. It was a messenger. Every flash of it was your own soul saying, "That was not okay. I deserve better. This matters to me." Anger is not the opposite of love. It is proof that something you love, yourself, your truth, your dignity, was not treated with care. The lesson is not to explode, and it is not to keep swallowing either. It is to finally let yourself say, out loud, in words, while you are still calm, I did not like that. That hurt me. I need something different. That is not aggression. That is the most honest thing you will ever say. And notice what happens after you say it. The tension that lives in your body begins to ease. The wall between you and the people you love starts to soften. The resentment that has been building in the background quietly loses its fuel. You do not have to be angry loudly. You just have to stop pretending the feeling isn't there. The storm has been waiting inside you for a long time. You are allowed, finally, to let it speak. If your eyes settled on the second symbol, the tree, standing alone, rooted in green and quietly full, then the emotion behind your door is grief. A grief, perhaps, that you never fully allowed yourself to feel. Not because you are not capable of feeling it, but because somewhere it felt like a luxury you could not afford, or a weakness you had to push past, or simply a wound so old you stopped recognizing it as a wound at all. You may have lost something, a person, a relationship, a chapter of your life, a version of yourself you loved, and instead of grieving it fully, you did what capable, functioning people do. You moved on. You stayed strong. You kept going. And to the outside world, it looked like resilience. But underneath, in the room you keep locked, the grief never finished. It simply sat down in the corner and waited. It shows up now as a tenderness you cannot explain, a sadness that arrives in quiet moments, a longing that softens your chest when you see something that reminds you of what was. You may be someone who craves roots, stability, a sense of being held, and yet always feels just slightly unmoored, as though you are still searching for the home you once had, or the one you never did. You may hold on longer than is useful to things are already ending, not because you cannot let go, but because letting go has so often meant loss without the chance to mourn. Here is what the tree is trying to tell you. Grief is not the enemy of moving forward. It is the bridge. The only way to the other side of a loss is through the middle of it, slowly, with patience, letting yourself feel the full weight of what is gone. Not to punish yourself, not to stay stuck, but because the thing you lost mattered, and things that matter deserve to be mourned. And only grief that is actually felt can soften into peace. Only then can new roots begin to grow, not in the place you are aching for, but in the life that is still, quietly, in front of you. Notice, too, how this grief shows itself in the everyday, in the way you cling a little too long to people who are already leaving, in the way change unsettles you even when it is good change, in the way certain songs or certain smells or certain times of year carry a weight you cannot always explain. That is not weakness. That is a heart that loved something real. The grief is not the problem. The problem is only that you have been carrying it alone, in silence, without giving it the space it needed to move through you. You are allowed to put it down, not by forgetting, but by finally letting yourself feel the full size of what it meant, so that your body can slowly, gently begin to believe it is safe to be here now. If your eyes were pulled toward the third symbol, the wave, rising and powerful and about to break, then the emotion inside your room is fear, or anxiety, or a kind of emotional flooding so overwhelming that you learned long ago to hold the whole ocean back. You may be someone who carries far more feeling than you ever let yourself show. You keep a calm, composed surface not because things don't affect you, but because they affect you so deeply that you are almost afraid of your own reactions. Some part of you believes that if you let one feeling out, all of them will follow. And then what? So you manage. You stay busy. You fill every silence. You avoid the conversations, the memories, the people, the places that might stir the water, because stirring the water means a wave rises, and a wave that rises has to go somewhere. So you keep it down. And on the surface, it looks like control, but underneath, you are exhausted. Not tired from the day exhausted, but tired from the constant, invisible work of holding everything back. The anxiety that shows up without cause, the tension that never fully releases, the sleep that never feels like enough. That is the ocean pressing against the dam. You may go through your days doing everything right, meeting every responsibility, and still feel slightly removed from your own life, as though you are watching it from behind glass. Present, functional, but not quite fully there. Here is what the wave is offering you. You are not too much. Your depth of feeling is not a flaw to be managed. It is the most sensitive, perceptive, alive part of who you are. The lesson is not to build a stronger dam. It is to stop being afraid of the water, because a wave only destroys what refuses to move with it. When you begin to let your feelings rise and actually pass through you, felt, named, allowed, you discover they were never as dangerous as a holding back. They only wanted to be felt, and then, like every wave, to return quietly to the sea. The calm you have been forcing through control can become a calm that comes from trust. The knowing that whatever rises, you can feel it, survive it, and come out the other side lighter than before. And slowly, as you practice this, something remarkable begins to happen. The anxiety that showed up without reason starts to lose its power. Not because the feelings stop coming, but because you stop being afraid of them. And a person who is not afraid of their own feelings is one of the most free people in the world. If you are still here, and I hope you are, type your number in the comments right now if you have not already. Because the symbols still to come carry the quietest emotions of all. The ones we hide so carefully that we have almost forgotten we are hiding them. The ones that, once named, change something. If your eyes were drawn to the fourth symbol, the rose, blooming soft and open against its green leaves, then the emotion inside your room is an unmet longing for love. Not romantic love specifically, though that may be part of it. The deeper longing to be truly seen, truly held, truly cherished. Not for what you do, not for how useful you are, not for how little you ask for, but simply for who you are. You may be someone who gives love more easily than you receive it, who takes care of people beautifully, anticipates their needs, shows up without being asked, and yet, when someone tries to do the same for you, something inside you stiffens. You brush it off. You say you're fine. You change the subject. You make yourself smaller so the care doesn't have to land. And perhaps you call it independence. Perhaps you have built an entire identity around not needing much. But hey, alone, reading this, you can feel it, can't you? The soft ache beneath the self-reliance. The part of you that is tired of being the strong one. The part that, if it's honest, just wants to be held for a little while without having to hold everything else together at the same time. Somewhere, you made a decision, perhaps so long ago you don't remember making it, that needing love was dangerous. That wanting it too openly would only lead to disappointment, or rejection, or the particular pain of being vulnerable and not having that vulnerability honored. So you became the giver, endlessly warm, endlessly generous, and endlessly just slightly out of reach. But the longing never left. It never will, because it is not a weakness. It is one of the most human things about you. Here is what the rose is gently telling you. You do not have to earn love by serving everyone who needs it. You do not have to make yourself useful to justify being cared for. The people who are meant to love you are not doing so on a balance sheet. They want to give to you. They are quietly waiting for the moment you let them in. That moment is not weakness. It is a beginning of the love you have been standing just outside of for years. The rose does not apologize for needing sunlight. It simply opens, trusting that it deserves to be seen. So do you, not the useful version of you. Not the strong version, the real one, the one that is tired and longing and quietly, stubbornly still hoping. That is the one worth being seen. If your eyes move to the fifth symbol, the rock, heavy and solid and unmoved, then the emotion locked behind your door is numbness, or a quiet, deep exhaustion that goes beyond tired, or a hopelessness so old you stopped calling it that. You may be someone who has, at some point in your life, felt too much, and then, in order to survive it, felt almost nothing at all. It did not happen by choice. It happened slowly, quietly, as a form of protection. When the pain got too large, when the loss was too real, when the world asked more of you than you knew how to give, something inside you went very still, very quiet. And from the outside, it looked like strength. You became the reliable one, the unshakable one, the person nothing seems to touch. And people leaned on that. They still do. But behind the steadiness, in the room you keep locked, there's a heaviness that never fully lifts. A weight you carry so constantly that you have almost forgotten there was a time you didn't carry it. You may go through your days doing everything you are supposed to do, and still feel strangely absent from your own life, as though you are watching it happen to someone else. Not unhappy exactly, but not alive in a way you dimly remember once being alive. Here is the truth your symbol is offering. Numbness was never the absence of feeling. It was the most intelligent thing your mind could do when feeling became unbearable. It was protection, and it worked, and there is no shame in it. But protection that was meant to be temporary has become a permanent room, and you have been living inside it for too long. The healing does not ask you to feel everything at once. It only asks you to begin with the smallest things, a moment of warmth that you let yourself notice, a laugh that surprises you, a single tear you stop swallowing. Each one is proof that you are still in there, still capable, still very much alive beneath the stone. Be patient with yourself. The thaw is slow, but even stone softens with water, and you are allowed, finally, gently, to let life move through you again. And notice, you do not have to do this alone. One of the quietest parts of the rock pattern is a belief that no one else can handle the real weight of you, that your full truth is too heavy to put on someone else. But the people who are meant to love you are not asking you to be light. They are asking you to be real. And the day you let someone sit with you in the heaviness, without immediately trying to manage it or minimize it, is the day the room begins to have a little more air in it. And if your eyes found the sixth symbol, the moon, glowing alone in the dark, beautiful and distant and only ever showing one face, then the emotion behind your door is loneliness. Not the kind that comes from being alone. The kind that comes from being surrounded and still unseen. From being present in every room and fully known in none. You may have a rich and complex inner world, thoughts that run deep, feelings that run deeper, a sense of things that most people around you simply do not seem to share. And you may have learned, through quiet disappointments, that sharing that world tends not to go the way you hope. People misunderstand. They respond to the surface and miss the depth. And so, slowly, you began to show less, to reveal only the safe, palatable, easy-to-hold parts of yourself, while keeping the truest parts hidden, the way the moon turns only one face toward the earth, keeping the other side always in shadow. And it protected you. But the cost is a loneliness that has nothing to do with the number of people around you. You can feel it in a conversation where you are fully present but not fully honest. You can feel it when someone laughs at the version of you that you show them, and something inside you wonders whether they would still be here if they could see the rest. You may be someone others describe as mysterious, private, self-contained, while inside you ache for connection that goes all the way down. Here is what the moon is quietly telling you. You are not invisible, and you are not too strange or too deep or too much to be truly known. You have simply been protecting yourself so thoroughly that no one has yet been given the chance to find you. The intimacy you long for cannot reach a self that stays in shadow. It begins, not with finding the right person, but with a decision to let one person, just one, pass the surface. To let them see a part of you that you usually keep hidden, and to discover, perhaps for the first time, that being truly seen does not destroy you. It is the very thing you have been waiting for all along. The moon does not have to stay distant, and the parts of you that live in the dark are exactly the part someone, somewhere, is waiting to be trusted with. Now, no matter which symbol chose you, pause for a moment, because something just happened inside you as you listened. Either you felt a quiet, almost startling sense of being seen, a recognition that landed somewhere too deep to be a coincidence, or you felt the urge to resist, to say that's not quite me, to move away from it. And here's what I want you to know. Both of those reactions are the test working. The parts you recognized easily are the emotions you have already begun to make peace with. But the line that made you uncomfortable, the sentence you wanted to skip past, the feeling that rose in your chest and then immediately tried to retreat, that is the room. That is the door. The discomfort is not a sign I was wrong. The discomfort is a key. And the fact that you are still here, still listening, means some part of you is finally ready to use it. Because the emotions we run from are never as dangerous as the running itself. The feeling you have been avoiding has not been waiting to destroy you. It has been waiting to be acknowledged. So it can finally, after all this time, loosen its grip. This was never about 6 images on a screen. You looked at 6 symbols that carry no meaning of their own, and your own mind reached out and poured your story into one of them. Your anger, your grief, your fear, your longing, your numbness, your loneliness. The symbol didn't know any of that. You brought it. You always bring it, everywhere you go, in every quiet moment, in every reaction that surprises you, in every wall you build without deciding to. That is what Jung was trying to tell us. The things we refuse to face don't leave. They follow us. They shape us from below, until the day we finally turn around and look. And a few moments ago, you did. Most people never do. Most people choose the scroll, the noise, the busy, the fine. You chose to stay. You chose to look. And that single choice, to be honest with yourself for a few quiet minutes, is how rooms that have been locked for years begin to slowly, gently open. So maybe this was more than a test. Maybe it was a door finally opening, just a crack, just enough light to see by. And maybe what you saw was not something to be afraid of. Maybe it was simply a feeling that has been alone in that room for a very long time, waiting for you to come back and sit with it. Waiting not to destroy you. Waiting to finally be seen. Because the emotions we bury do not need to be fixed. They only ever needed to be felt. And you, tonight, gave one of them exactly that. Tell me in the comments, which symbol found you, and which line touched somewhere you didn't expect. I read every single one. And sometimes simply naming your feeling in a comment, writing the word that you have been carrying quietly, is the first small act of letting it breathe. It counts. It matters. You matter. And if this is the kind of work you want to keep doing, the slow, honest, sometimes uncomfortable work of finally understanding yourself, then subscribe and stay close. Because every test we do together opens another door. And the person waiting on the other side of all of them, the version of you that is no longer defined by what they carry in silence, has always been worth knowing. I will see you in the next one.